Buckle up, excellence junkies, because this podcast is definitely for you. Welcome to Rockafuel. Do you wish that you could surround yourself with people that love to kick ass just like you? Well, come to my party, baby, and meet some of the brightest stars in the entrepreneurial galaxy, because it is my mission to give these entrepreneurs a platform to declare what they are on this planet to accomplish and to show you why they are rocket fuel. Woo-hoo! Oh, guys, my dear Rocketeers, we have an awesome show for you because how many of you feel like you're just kind of going through life and life is pushing you forward, right? Like you don't really have control over what's going on, and you kind of wake up sometimes and go, what am I doing? There's got to be something better, right? So, I mean, you know that Rocket Fuel is about giving you that Rocket Fuel, that inspiration for all the things that you want to do in your life to get yourself to that level 11 and to optimize life. And today I am really excited to introduce to you Dorian Jones, who is all about stopping living your life by default and finally living your life by design. So Dorian, thank you so much for joining us today. Woo! Okay.
No worries. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I should have like the crowd sound effect. Yeah, I think I'm going to start doing that. Well, you deserve it, Dorian. Well, there's so many things to talk about, but tell me, tell me, before you became an entrepreneur, what were you doing, and what kind of like sparked you to even start becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, I was always entrepreneurial. I always had the drive to be an entrepreneur, but I never really learned how to do it. So in the beginning, fresh coming out of high school, I was doing music. Then I converted my music name to a clothing brand, which I ran for maybe about 6 or 7 years. And then I kind of felt that die off, and I didn't really transition with the transitions of social media from Twitter to Instagram. I always wanted to be the person in the background. So it just didn't work well for me a little bit after Instagram came out. So I picked up motivational stuff. I picked up more of my life lessons and talking to people, having conversations with people, and the inspiration they got from it and the insight that they had. And they said that it changed their lives. So it's just like a light bulb moment. Like, you know what? I should share this with the world. And
so
then
tell
eventually,
me more. Well, tell me more about like what was it that you were sharing with them that started kind of inspiring them?
it was all based on their personal problems they were having. So some people may have a problem with just trying to get their life together. Some people just may need answers to what to do next. So this is just basic conversations I was having, as like me and you were having, and then they speak about things that they're struggling with, and I just give them advice and give them recommendations, and they're like, you know what, that really helps me. And actually, one big turning point was when I was working as a cable guy, because I did that for 12 years or so. I was working in like the Beverly Hills area, so I had this one guy in the office, and he looked really stressed out. Nice view, he had a nice car, all that stuff. He had the lifestyle of someone who's successful, but he was really stressed out. And I just asked him, "Can I talk to you really quick? It seems like something's bothering you." We just started to conversate, and I just started to give him I wouldn't say give him advice, but just talking to him, giving him a different perspective on what he was going through and just life in general. And he's like, you know what, that really helped me. It really helped me feel good. And I felt good walking away from there. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should take this more seriously.
Yeah. So it's interesting because it's like you were a natural at it, and that's just who you are. It's just what you do. And then I think it's important to point that out, because sometimes people feel like that drive to be an entrepreneur, to contribute in some way, and they're confused as to like, well, what would it be? And a lot of times it's just looking back at the things that you naturally are, right? That your friends and your loved ones say, well, you do this really good, and it's hard for us to see it ourselves, but what's important is that you listened, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what it was. I listened, and I just really figured it out, start to read more, start to go on YouTube, just looking at other motivational things, seeing what was out there, what things were
Mm,
being taught, and where the gap was as well. And I seen a big gap with there wasn't that many I wouldn't say entrepreneur, but African Americans, people that
mm,
looked like me that was pushing more the mindset and the goal achievement. There weren't that many, if any, out there
mm.
that I saw. You know, you have a few, don't get me wrong, but vast majority of it didn't look like me. And at least as a younger person, I feel like I can connect with people.
Well, yeah, and that's really important because people need to feel like their situation is understood, their perspective is understood, right?
Right.
So that's what's really important. I mean, the, well, now especially with social media, right? I think people have greater access to finding people that kind of have a motivational message and maybe they coach and whatever, right? And so, but it's hard to find the person that like clicks with you
Mhm.
and that you feel comfortable really understands where you're coming from, right? I think when you're trying to help people that literally have never started, and especially if they're in a frustrated situation, I'm trying to remember what you said to me at one point. It was like they're like uh, overwhelmed and underpaid, or
Yeah, they're underemployed, underpaid. They feel like they should have more at this point in their life. And they're like, you know what, this is not it. This is not how I picture my life to be after, 10, even 3, 4, 5 years out of high school or college. This is not where I want to be right now. And I just don't know what to do.
yeah, yeah. And so okay, so then you had this idea. You're like, well, what was the idea? It's like how can you motivate people? I mean, there are a lot of different ways. Are you a speaker? Do you teach? Tell me all the things.
I do. I started out as a speaker, so I started going on YouTube, and then I was bad at it. I just post videos. I've realized recently that YouTube, you really have to do more than just post videos. You have to think about the thumbnails, the titles, connect with people. So I started to do that like later as of recently. But in the beginning, I started out with YouTube and just speaking. I started to speak locally. I started to speak at local events and just started to connect with the people and let them know that I was one of them, that I was just someone who was on the journey with them. I'm not someone who's really high is going to tell you to talk to me. You need to go through my coaching program. You need to go through this. Like, no, let's talk. I want to know you. I want to know your story. I want to know
Mm,
every single one of you so that you can feel like, okay, this dude gets me and he really cares. That's what I want to show. I
mm,
want to show the empathy that I have for people who's going through real life struggles.
mm. And so, I mean, if I may ask, just roughly, why do you care? What what to you, Dorian?
That's my passion. That's my joy. I love it when people tell me that been able to grow with just the conversation I've had with them or content that I've put out. And I feel like the world needs more people who are more energetic. It's so many people walking around as robots right now. They wake
Mm,
up, they go to work, they sit in traffic, they stressed out, they go home, eat, go to sleep. And it's just that continuous cycle of people not really feeling fulfilled.
mm,
And once you get people who are fulfilled, you have a better world. And why not be a help with that? Why not be a person that's pushing that message and helping people get to that point to where they feel like, you know what, I feel good now. I don't just feel like my life is on autopilot. I feel like I'm in control. So that's my
yeah.
thing. I love to see people's growth.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. So did you have somebody that motivated you, or do you wish to be the person that or do you desire to be the person that you wish you had?
Yeah, I desire to be the person I wish I had. Someone I wish
Mm,
I had early in my life, even as a teenager, as a kid, and as a young adult. I wish I had someone to really tell me these things or even had access to know about these things because I never thought about mindset, goal achievement. I never really thought it was a thing coming from where I came from. I never heard it. All I knew was survival. You wake up, you go to work, you get a job, make sure that you're paying your bills, and you eat every day. You worry about the rest later.
And where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the section of Los Angeles called Watts. It's right next to Compton. It's a small area where it's a lot of poverty, a lot of public housing, things like that. So I grew up in that type of environment where, a lot of violence, drugs, gangs, all that
Mm,
stuff. And we're probably maybe 5 miles and you have probably at least 13, 14 gangs. Every different street is a different gang. So it was just everything overlapped. So you can imagine how it was.
Yeah. And the thing is, what, mindset and getting out, is that like, I don't know, is that like a common thing that's being thought about, or is it just kind of like you said, just getting through?
Yeah, you just getting by. It's about
Mm.
who can you steal from, who can I rob to get to the next level, just so that I can see the next day, so that I can make sure I have food on my table. People
Mhm.
cutting their own friends off and doing things to their own friends just because they need to survive. I
Right.
knew that I had to escape from that environment. I knew that I had to escape from that mentality. I knew that
Yeah.
it was more to life than that. So I had to separate and move forward for myself.
But tell me, like, how did you know, okay, there's more to this? Because a lot of times, there without exposure to what else, right? You
Yeah,
kind of see like what's on TV or all the other things, kind of seems like a pipe dream, right? It seems like,
it
yeah,
did.
okay, that's nice for everybody else, but not for me.
Mhm.
There's no path. Like, you don't see the door opening. So how did you even
Uh-huh.
see the door opening?
Well, you mentioned it. You said TV, so I got to see different rap videos and see people that were living a certain lifestyle. But the biggest shift came for me when I started to drive. I was 19 years old, and
Mhm.
I'd go and drive from where I lived to Beverly Hills, Hollywood, West Hollywood. I'd go and see the houses, and I stumbled upon this car dealership because I was always into cars, exotic cars since a teenager, and I seen these Lamborghinis, Bugattis, Bentleys, all these cars. And I went up there every single weekend. And one day, this guy that was a salesman, he just stopped me and he just started to talk to me. And eventually he took me on a test drive in a new Bentley GT. It was just released. And he let me get behind the wheel, and that changed my life. I'm like, you know what? If I can touch this, I can have it, because these other people that have it, they breathe air just like me. I may have to work a little bit harder, but I'm going to get there. And that just like kind of put a light bulb in me, like, you know what? I have to do whatever I have to do
Ah,
to grind and get this, because I like this feeling. And he told me, he's like, man, as long as you, only difference is just the work ethic. The work that you put in is going to determine if you get this or not. And at that time, I was like, you know what? I want this. And as I grew, my mind changed. I'm like, I love the cars and everything, but the mission became much bigger than just owning a certain car, a certain house. It became changing the world.
yeah, yeah. So it's amazing, like, this one car salesman
Hmm.
basically was like, you know what? I'm going to take this kid for a ride.
Yeah.
And and it wasn't just the ride, but it's the words that he
Hmm.
shared,
And the experience.
and that experience of like, whoa, this is like for real. It's not just it's not just in a rap video.
Yeah,
Like,
you
I
do
just
it.
touched this. Like, once you taste that, oh, come on. Come on.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, this feels totally different from the car that I drove up here in. So,
Oh, yeah.
it's different.
I know. Like, how the hell do you get into your own car after that? It's like, damn.
Right.
So, okay, so then take me through that transformation of saying, okay, first the, like, the desire to have the things, right? Like, you
Mhm.
touch the Bentley and you're like, oh, it was Bentley, not the Bugatti.
Yeah,
The
it was
Bentley, right?
Bentley. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to get it right, you know. So you touch, you ride the Bentley, you drive the Bentley, right? Did you drive it?
Yeah, I drove it down the block because he wasn't supposed to let me drive it, but we went down an empty
Right,
street and I did drive it.
right.
Mhm.
I'm just, I'm just, I love cars, by the way. So I'm just like,
Mhm.
um, but so you could have easily just said, all right, I desire the money so I could have these things. But then you said that there was a transformation kind of in your purpose. So talk to me about that.
The transformation didn't come until years later, because at
Mm,
that time I was still kind of dabbling with music, and then I was running the clothing brand. And
okay.
I thought that in my mind, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to make this clothing brand and it's going to work out. So fast forward to maybe 6, 7 years later, I go to this conference that Damon John had, and he was famous for having FUBU, but he was also into other things, which I didn't know. So he had a guy up there talking about real estate investing. So talking about how he can live life
Uh-huh.
basically tax free and use all the tax reductions and all the tax loopholes to live basically a free life. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh, I like that. And I started to investigate real estate investing and wealth building. And that took me on a different journey. So that transformation kind of happened gradually. And that's how I slowly got into the mindset. And I started to read like, okay, it's more to this. It's more to wealth building than just making money. It's more the mindset. It's more the
Yeah.
goals you set for yourself, the things you do every day. So I started to gradually get into it after that point.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how all of these little steps. I mean, first of all, your choice to go into the car dealership, right? Like you could have like walked by, but like you went in, right? So that opens a door for conversation, and your choice to go to that conference and to be open to that information, that's really important. And honestly, there's a lot of stuff that is free
Mhm.
out there now. I mean, obviously I say now with the internet, but since I'm, substantially older than you, but we won't have to talk about that. No, but I mean, even back then, there are, the free like seminars you could go to, whatever. And of course, yes, they're trying to upsell you, but you get a lot of information in those things. So I mean, that's really important to delve in to all of those free resources that you have, because it starts opening up your mind. And that's like where the door starts opening, right? Maybe the door wasn't opened by somebody else, maybe in your environment it wasn't open, but just like being able to pick up those signs and create those opportunities to talk to people outside of your sphere, right? And it doesn't have to be a I'll say a Compton-esque, environment. It's whatever your environment is, that where you feel like you're kind of imprisoned. You're like in a bubble, right? And
Mhm.
like you hear other people doing things, but no, not in my world, right? I mean, so many people have that feeling like across the board.
Right.
And it's just, what can people do to just start opening themselves up to opportunities to learn and to learn more about themselves?
I'd say start the simplest place to start is just go and start to read books. Open your mind up to a different world outside of your own. And that's
Mhm.
the easiest way to do it. You can get books for free. You can even go browse. You can go sit at Barnes and Noble and just browse at a few chapters of a book.
True.
And it just opens your mind up and you're like, okay, this really connects with me. You'll find something that connects with you and that speaks your language. Something that really speaks to your pain. The thing that you're dealing with, you may see that this author went through the same thing as me, maybe from a different side of the world, but he went through the same thing as me and he got through it or she got through it. So I can do the same thing. So you need to find that thing that's going to give you that push. What thing is going to push the person? What things are you into? Dig deeper into those things as opposed to just being on the surface level.
Yeah.
Because so many times we see the surface level of things and we take that as for what it is, as opposed to digging deeper and just educating ourselves and just having more knowledge, expanding our knowledge base. And that's
Yeah.
where the growth and transformation begins.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And like you said, I mean, going to Barnes and Noble, you could just scan through, and then all of a sudden you start reading something, you're like, I think I
Mhm.
could read more than a couple pages of this, right?
Right.
Because everybody has like different writing styles or their story or whatever, but when it clicks, it clicks. And then you could just keep flipping and flipping through that. And yeah, yeah,
Right.
it's good stuff. Well, I mean, also I remember when we were preparing, for this interview, I had asked you, what are some things that you could kind of share with people on how they could take like these first steps. I mean, I love that you have this saying of like no longer living a life by default and living a life by design. And
Right.
when you said it, I was like, oh snap, that's some good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And it's true because we live life by default based on what we're used to, based on the things that we're given, our surroundings, the people we associate with. And
Yeah.
then if you go and live a life by design, you go and start associating with other people, you go step out of your comfort zone, try new things you never even thought you'd try. It just opens your world up.
Mhm.
Now I'm a wine enthusiast. I used to, when I was younger, you young, you go out, you just drinking. I'm drinking hard liquor, but now
Whatever.
I'm sophisticated now. So
I
yeah,
love it. I love it. Well, what I want to point out is, everybody knows that there's a catchword that we include in the episode, and the point of it is because I want you guys to be inspired, but to actually do something about your inspiration, right? If Dorian's story and what his mission is, like if that like is inspiring to you, I would hate for you to just listen and then be like, what do I do about that, right? So Dorian actually put together this awesome value bomb, right? Called Making the Shift, Taking the First Steps to Living a Life by Design. And tell me a little bit about, you know, what your thought process was in putting this together, because there's so much that you teach people, and it's hard to kind of boil it down. And I asked you, I said, look,
Mhm.
just give somebody a baby step. Like, I want to deliver mini transformations, right? Give somebody
Yeah.
a baby step. So what was your thought process in figuring out what the first steps would be?
So when I thought about it, I thought about where was I? Where was
Mm,
I and what things was I struggling with? And what things I wish I knew in the beginning, what someone should have told me or I wish someone had told me. So I thought about the
mm,
time management, the things you're associating with on the daily basis. Those are the basics. That's like the foundation for
mm,
your growth. That's the basic things that you need to that you actually have control over. You may think that you don't have enough time, but these things don't require you to say, I need 3 or 4 more hours. These are things that you can do on your regular schedule. Whatever you have going on within life, you can implement these things without thinking about it. But
mm,
that comes with that transformation of you consciously doing it and you knowing what things to look for and what things to do. So it's more of
yeah.
a guide saying like, okay, these are the things you need to focus on. These are the things that you actually need to start to do in your daily life if you're ready to make that shift.
Right. And I didn't actually verbally share the catchword. So if anybody watching on YouTube, you already know what the catchword is. But for those of you Rocketeers that are listening, what are you going to text? You're going to text RF for Rocket Fuel dash diligent to 411321 to receive Making the Shift and other resources that are going to help you, you know, taking those first steps to finally living a life by design. That's like critical. We cannot continue across the board, whether you're starting your business or you're moving forward and building something, or it's not even business related, right?
Mhm.
Because you're not even talking about starting a business. You're
Mm-mm.
talking about just life, period. So I want to clarify that, because a lot of people think like, oh, this is just for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. No, right?
Right.
So let me spell diligent first, because I know that I'll mess it up. So it's RF-DILIGENT to 411321. 411321 is the phone number. RF-diligent is the catchword or the message that you're going to send, right? Also, for those of you that are international, then you could text RF-diligent to +1 909 741 1321. That's +1 909 741 1321. That's anybody outside of the US. Okay. If you're in the US, then text 411321. RF diligent. And of course, RF dash diligent, pardon. And of course, you have to provide your email address. So if it asks you, provide your email address instantly so that you could get this Making the Shift guide. And if it doesn't ask you for your email address, that means you've texted a catchword before and we know who you are. So voila, it is in your email inbox. All right. So yeah, so you talk about and I don't want to spoil it because it's
Mhm.
good stuff, but basically you're talking about the things that you realize were making the biggest shift, right? Because you stumble through it and you're like, people shouldn't have to stumble through it. These are like the most important things that
Yeah.
you need to kind of reset in your brain
Mhm.
to get things moving. And so how is it that you work with people today? I mean, we talked about your previous entrepreneurial journey, and
Mhm.
so what's the name of your company right now?
Diligent Minds is the name of the company.
I love
And
it.
currently I help by I do speak, but the main things I do person to person is I do coaching with people as well. I do coaching. I have my online course, I have my podcast, and then
Mm,
my book is getting ready to come out as well. So
nice.
getting that ready, and that's how I help and I connect with people. So even through Instagram, I tell people reach out to me via Instagram, and I'm there. I'm talking to you. I'm sending you messages. I'm actually a people person. I'm connecting with the people. I'm making them feel like I'm not so far out of touch. Like I'm
Yeah.
right there with them on their journey.
Uh-huh.
Because like I said, I wanted to have that person for myself. I hate that you send someone a message, they just look at it or they just never respond to you. I don't want to be that person because I know how discouraging it can be. And it gets you right back to step one. Like, no, like you sometimes just need someone to listen to. We don't always have people in our immediate circle that are going to connect with us, that's going to understand what we're going through. So I want to be that person for everyone.
Yeah, and I want to add to that because what was very, very kind of you is within this PDF, you also give people a link to your calendar. So that's huge, guys. I mean, to be able to, it's one thing to be inspired by somebody and then to get some information from them or to get a free course. And like you said, you actually have a free course and then a follow-up course to that, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, so it's one thing to do that, but to be able to actually, connect with that expert and have them hear a little bit of your story. I mean, they're going to help you figure out, well, maybe, what are the things that are best for you to look at. Is it the book? Is it the free course? Is it the whatever? Or you might have other things that have inspired you, that because I know you're just such a giving person. So guys, I'm just going to remind you once again, and I'll remind you at the end of the show too, which is creeping up anyway, but to text RF-diligent, DILIGENT, right, to 411321. If you're in the US, you're going to get the Making the Shift guide, but you're also going to get access to Dorian. So that's amazing. And for those of you lovely people outside of the US, you can always text us to +1 909 741 1321. And the catchword is RF-diligent. All right. You also mentioned your book, and I promised you that we would bring it up. So tell me about separating from the pack, and I love that. I just love the name of it. Wait, can you show it? Are you okay giving us the sneak peek of the cover of the book?
Yeah, I have it on my phone. I can show
Show
you that
it.
one. I'm still waiting. Let me see. Where's my phone? I got it right here.
As he
And
was trying to be good and like silence it and everything, and I'm like, no, show me,
okay,
show
I'll give it. Let's see if you can see it on here. Let's see.
me.
You can see. I'm
Oh,
trying to turn it
yeah.
right. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So those of you that are listening to the podcast, now you got to find us on YouTube, and you have to watch the Dorian Jones episode so that you can see the hot cover.
yeah. And the book is all about helping people separate from their old beliefs, habits, and
Oh,
thoughts that's been holding them back, basically. How do you separate from those things, whether it be financial, whether it be just your mindset, your environment, yourself, all
yeah.
those things. It's talking about separating from those things and taking control and start to create a legacy for yourself. Start to really take control. And like we said earlier, stop living a life by default and start living it by design.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And once again, I'm going to repeat, this is not just for entrepreneurs. It's in general. If you feel stuck and you have that little inkling in you, and if you didn't even have the inkling, and now we're telling you, guess what? There's more. There
Mhm.
is more.
Right.
It is possible, right? Then that's who we're talking to. That's who we're talking to. That's the message for separating the pack.
Mhm.
Separating from the pack. I can't wait to see the book, to read the book. And then also I'm going to share your website, dorianjones.com, DORIANJONES.com, so you could learn all about Dorian. Any final words, any final points of inspiration, man?
Wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this, if you're struggling with something throughout life, trust me, life is a journey. It's full of depths, it's full of deep valleys where you feel like you're just not going to get out of it. But those dark valleys don't last forever. Continue to push. I like to use this analogy as if you're riding a bike. We get on this bike of life and we start to go, and we have this goal that we want to get to. But then next thing you know, we find that comfort, we find that security, and we just get stuck there. Or maybe your chain pops and you just stop. You fix your bike, but then you don't start to ride again. You must get back on that bike and continue to ride. Never stop until you reach your final destination of where you like to be. And even then, continue to push even further. Continue to set the bar even higher for yourself. Challenge yourself. Step out of your comfort zone and become the best version of yourself.
I love it, Dorian. It is quite evident why you are a hashtag rocket fuel. I feel so honored to have been able to have you on the show and share your story. And I will be even more ecstatic just to hear of folks that have been motivated by you guys. Leave a review, leave a message, in our reviews, and just let us know if you were inspired by Dorian. Of course, text RF-diligent 2411321 or 2+1 909-741-1321. That is also going to be in the episode notes, so you can't mess it up. You got to do this and no longer live that life by default. Dorian, I want to thank you so much, and I can't wait to have you on again because I know you're doing amazing things, and I hope you have a rockin' day, Dorian.
Thank you.
And I hope you guys, my dear Rocketeers, have a rockin' day. Bye now.